I'm playing Cold War Warhammer. That's great.
I'm making coffee.
I'm shoving a massive dildo up my ass.
Sorry? So when I went to bed, they were all Farage had conceded defeat, even before anyone had declared. I didn't give a shit, so I went to bed.
It's strangely presumptuous on your part, Nigel.
I thought so. I mean, I couldn't work out whether, because there's no way that, they were sort of saying, there were no exit polls, so, how did he do that after the exit polls? And also, it just had he is either the greatest troll ever, because it doesn't matter whether he concedes defeat or not. Who wins, wins.
Yeah.
So it's like a pointless thing to do,
Yeah, absolutely.
You can as well just go to bed like everyone else and sort of see what it is in the morning.
You could tell what you obviously thought the result was going to be, and it's just like, To be honest,
you should have stayed up. It would have been a different result.
If I placed the bet, I would bet against.
Well, I think, everyone did.
Yeah.
It's like 4-1 against.
Yeah. Everyone was like, oh, well, we'll probably, the silent majority will come out. And they'll just be like, nah, fuck it. Too much work.
So, victory for democracy?
Well, yeah, I guess.
Really?
Well, yeah.
What was the vote again?
52 to 48.
Resounding, the country has spoken?
It's not necessarily. There are quite a few who didn't get what they wanted.
So, are you familiar with an expression, a house divided against itself?
Yeah, so basically we're going to
Do you know how that ends?
Oh, come on, don't be salty. It's salty.
But Thunderfoot, even
no, I'm just want to know. I mean, congratulations, you won, but at what cost? The first one is you've got a divided country. Okay, let's see who's salty. Is the country more united or less now?
Yeah, well, that's the next thing to do, isn't it?
What, you think that you're going to unite the country now?
Well, no, but the Remain camp are going to have to reconcile things, aren't they?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, for me, I'm just going to enjoy it now because you're on your own. You've got no one else to blame. If it goes down the shitter from here, you're on your own.
Discuss.
I mean, it's one of those. I mean, I'm going to enjoy it. I mean, you think you're going to make Britain great again?
Well, me personally, probably not. But I think we'll do okay.
Thunderfoot, how would you feel if America would have to unite with Mexico and trade with the same trading partners, do the same decisions?
Well, they do, don't they? They got that North American common trade thing.
Well, it's not like the EU. I mean, you don't
it's not far off. It's somewhere between, yeah? I mean, the EU is overwhelmingly a trading bloc.
Yeah, but it was becoming overwhelmingly political and legislative.
Bullshit.
Of course it was. Somewhere between 15 and 50% of our laws are being made in
Yeah, you said that in the debate, and it's like you can't name one single law. Yeah, what effect, right? Yeah, please do. Yeah. Let's just see the most the law which has the greatest effect on your life made in Brussels is.
I honestly wouldn't know. I'd have to go and look it up. It'd take
right. So I mean, you're worried about something where there's an effect which you can't even detect, and that's an overbearing influence from Brussels.
No, it's you know what? It's not. It's the principle of the thing. That's the thing. It's always been the principle of the thing.
If you're going to do things on principle,
I do everything on principle.
Then no, I'll bet you bloody don't.
I try.
Your principles include the straight bananas.
But hold on a bit, Thunderfoot. Even if, let's say, you don't want,
so you're saying that we left the EU because the biggest influence they had was straight bananas.
No, I'm taking
because they're being haughty and overbearing and arrogant.
Yeah.
You know they were. I mean,
well, actually, no. I mean, the thing is, they're easy to portray as haughty, but overbearing and arrogant. Because seeing as you don't know anything that they've actually done, it's a pretty bold proclamation.
Can I tell you something that I actually done to my country? I'm from Romania, right? And the Romanian president comes up and says, look, we can't take more than this amount of refugees because our economy doesn't allow us. And then the next day, Angela Merkel comes on and is like, no, 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 you will take refugee quotas. And then the Romanian president comes like, yes, we will take refugee quotas. I didn't vote for Merkel. Okay, why is she dictating what's going to happen in my country? How is this democratic? How is this the will of the people?
And you've literally got the president of the commission
actually,
saying things like
how many of the... Now you're into actual technicalities of a real problem, right? So if you've actually got a refugee problem, do they mostly come over in Romania?
Well,
honestly,
that's not the issue. The issue is that Angela Merkel got.
No, you're worried about technicalities now, right? The technicalities are. Let me finish. You've got a common border around the outside. So if refugees are going to come into the EU, they've got to come in through one of the outside countries, yeah?
Okay.
Right? And if one of those outside countries is Romania, then actually quotas would be fantastic for you because it means that you don't get stuck with all the refugees.
Yeah, but
this is just the straight down practicality of having a common border. Right? And the reason that we have a common border is so we can have a common market where there's free flow of people. Yeah, I was looking at the other day, there's something like 100,000 the nurses. What you were saying the other day about, employing the clever people from other countries. There's 100,000 people in the health service who come from the continent.
Okay. But I don't mind giving these people visas just by virtue of them already being here.
Right, but do you understand that is the core reason or one of the core reasons for the common market is to make the movement of people easier, because otherwise you would have to do the paperwork on 100,000 people alone just for the health service.
The whole point is making the movement of people less easy.
Because they're here, you've got to replenish them at some point as well.
If I could chime in, yes, Thunderf00t is actually right here. Article 4 of the European Union is fucking fantastic. I love it. But regarding laws, regarding what Brussels supposedly is doing and what Sargon has not answered yet, the problem is there's such an overwhelming amount of laws that are being passed and regulations. For instance, the EU regulates water toxicity levels, air toxicity levels, air pollution levels. The EU has created standards for just about every food product currently on the market. The EU has created production standards for quite a few
So look at it like this, in your day-to-day life, the EU has probably been an outrageous gain for you.
Well, I'm not arguing about whether or not it is gain or not. I'm arguing about national sovereignty.
You don't seem to be understanding
No, he's making a point. Let's let him finish, then you can go, okay?
Yes, I'm really not arguing about a gain or a detriment. I acknowledge that the EU has done some really good things, even for me personally. What I'm arguing here is about that quite a number of those things have been done without my consent, above our head, and quite a few of those things even were hurtful to national products. For instance, Romanian matches. Well,
they were all done without your consent, yeah?
Largely, yes.
Just like leaving the EU is done without a lot of people's consent.
Hold on, Thunderf00t. If let's say the Remain camp would have won, what's to stop on next election a British Prime Minister using his campaign on leaving the EU? Assuming
nothing. I mean, it's an advisory referendum. I mean, the government can still turn around and say, "Sod you always."
Pretty much,
and they could have equally just sort of said, "Well, we don't need this referendum anyway. We're leaving."
But I agree with you. I agree with you, and I'm saying if the Remain camp would have won, and it would have been a very close call, what would stop someone from UKIP, for instance, running with the platform on next election saying that, yeah, I'm going to get Britain out of EU if I win, and he doesn't need a referendum. He can just, if he wins, that's what he runs his campaign on.
It was an internal thing within the Tory party. That's the only reason this ever happened.
Yeah, and in many ways, there's one of these cartoons. I came across yesterday, there's like 2% want UK to leave, 2% want UK to stay, and 90-something% think this was a bloody stupid referendum. I mean, all
they
it's
did
done
turn
is,
up to the referendum in record numbers.
yeah, right. So it's polarized the country like nothing else. You've lost. I mean, it doesn't. It really didn't matter at this point whether you stayed or left. You've inherited like you said, a massively divided country.
But the divide was there, with referendum or not.
Record turnouts and record division.
Hold on, the divide was there, regardless of the referendum or not. Like,
no, it wasn't. Most people didn't give a shit about it because.
I think a lot of people did.
Can I, Thunderf00t, I'm just trying to understand this one. You are saying that the referendum, as it is now happening, is actually causing a divide in the population, right?
It's polarized it, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, absolutely. You scroll the clock back to this time last year, and it was like most of Europe that people regarded the EU as bureaucratic, inefficient, unresponsive, but basically it didn't do much, and it sort of gave you all those things like trading standards, and it was. And now it's all good man, bad. It's all polarized crap.
Now, the point I was trying to get at is, do you think that the people who were campaigning for Britain to leave had or still have a moral obligation to keep the country united?
What you mean? Like the UK had a moral obligation to keep the EU?
No,
I mean, it's one of those things. Well, they don't have any obligations whatsoever.
No, I'm trying to point out that quite often, if you stand for something what fits your ideology or conviction, whatever it is, you will divide. And maybe not even 50-50, but you will.
Yeah, like America with pro-Trump, anti-Trump people.
So
Yeah.
I think that the claim that it's bad that it created controversy, that it divided, is really not valid because everything divides essentially.
No, I think you'll find historically, if you're a happy country, it's better to stay a happy country than to get polarized. Rarely do good things come out of, how should we say, radicalization, which is the extreme of polarization.
Yeah, but not all people who voted are radicalized. Look, we have someone in our channel who voted to remain.
That's why I'm using the word polarize.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, a lot of people who voted are still on the side. And
Well, like, yeah, and I so what do you think is going to happen next?
Well, they will probably, like, the people from the EU will force my country not to trade with Britain.
Well,
Which, I mean, it's for Romania's interest, right? If Britain offers better prices and better merchandise, we're going to be forced not to trade with them because we're part of the EU. While Britain is going to open markets with probably other countries like India, America.
You mean all those people who were actually against Brexit?
Yeah, but we're still going to trade with them.
I'm
It's
just
economics. It's not politics. If someone sells you a better product for less cost, why do you care where it comes from?
Well, I mean, if it's a matter of national security, there are two usual reasons for protected markets.
I agree, but do you think
to them valid. The first one is secure. Most of the protected market stuff is to do with agriculture, which is a relatively small fraction of the GDP, which it turned out took up a large portion of Europe's money. It was the Common Agricultural Policy. It started out with good intentions, ended up at about the 90s with gargantuan waste and sort of screwing over the world food economy. It's a small part of our economy, but it's a big part of other people's economies. So it was actually genuinely screwing people over, and they reined it in, and it got down to something sensible to the point where it was actually Blair, I think, who actually he just ran some numbers on it and sort of said, if we put 1/10 of the money of the Common Agricultural Policy into science, we could sort of spend almost as much as we could double all of our science budgets.
If I can,
which is not.
The EU is currently spending about 41% of its entire budget on the current agriculture bullshit. Just
Yeah,
for
but okay, right. So that's costing you an amazing what is it? It's £100 a year for the common agriculture, £1 a week, right? And it's not you're burning the money, right? A lot of that is basically, I mean, it's kind of redundant now. I hope it's kind of redundant. But the idea was that you don't want your farmers going broke in the years where the prices are low, because that means you're going to not have enough food. Right? It's one of those things. Food is one of those ones where you want stability in the market. Right? You don't want the cheapest product all of the time if it's at the cost. The farmers go out of business when the prices are low. You understand that?
Yes, and this is why farming is often subsidized.
Right. Okay. So I mean, all you're really saying is, well, we're going to actually have a common agricultural policy. I mean, Britain's going to have to subsidise its own farmers anyway. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think it has done for a long time.
Right. Well, yeah, probably through the common agricultural policy. I think you'll find. Right. So I mean, you can sort of laugh about it. Costs half the EU budget, but that costs you £1 a week, of which you'll have to spend almost all of it anyway, for the simple reason that if you don't, your farmers are going to go out of business, and first of all, it's a lesser issue these days, the stability in the food supply, but it does mean that it'll hurt your agricultural industry if you don't pay that money yourselves to your own farmers.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, sort of crying out that the EU still spends half of its money on the common agricultural policy when it's an almost insignificant amount, which you'll have to pay anyway, I think is kind of a moot point.
Oh yeah, that's why I wasn't making it.
Well, yeah, someone did though.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I think people left was really the attitude of Europe towards the British public.
No, I think the reason they left is because the majority of people didn't have a sound understanding of the actual issues.
See, I watched your video, and you said that it's more of a nationalistic chest-bumping thing, but it seems that most of the nationalists, like the Scots and that wanted independence, they want to stay.
Bullshit! Bull fucking shit!
I'm going to show you the map.
No. I don't know about the math, but I know the polls in Scotland are like 70-30 in favour of leave. In fact,
they're wrong.
These are the results.
Scotland
They're counted votes.
Remain.
Sorry?
Scotland was entirely Remain.
Yeah, exactly.
Not a single dot on Scotland.
Dude, check it out for yourself. I put the link in the chat. You can check it out yourself if you don't believe us.
And did I get that wrong? Yeah, I mean that's what I was saying. I thought you said
it's mostly rich areas that want to stay, and it's mostly the poor people that want to leave.
Apart from Scotland, who wants to stay?
Scotland wants to stay.
Yeah.
London wants to stay too.
Scotland, yeah. London, and Ireland. They want to stay.
Yeah, I mean, this is where I don't know what's going to happen next, but I know it's going to be an absolute fucking shit show. So, yeah, congratulations.
Well, are you aware of the hate speech laws that the European Union is trying to imply?
Yeah, and I'm also aware of that the UK has some of the worst anti-free speech laws. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I do would have got me. It would have fallen under a lot of these hate speech laws in the UK.
But aren't the laws a consequence of the United Europe? Because they can
no. Most of the UK ones are entirely homegrown.
Yeah, we are guilty of that enough ourselves.
Why are you cocking yourself, Sargon? Why?
Oh, mate, if only we knew.
Because it's true, you know.
Dude, uncock yourself. Become David Icke.
Honestly, I would love to get David Icke to red pill the government, but I don't think so.
No, but I read this paper from the European Union, and it was absolutely just cringeworthy. They wanted to have a council that would force private and public broadcastings, including televisions and radio, to have like pro-diversity programs and to make sure that they're not offending things like religion.
If I
Yeah,
can just
the thing you've got to bear in mind about the EU is it was halfway between. It was halfway towards the United Nations. I mean, it likes to sort of do all this grand scale moralizing. I mean, shit. You saw all the feminist stuff about the United Nations.
Yeah, I know, but
Europe wants to be kind of there, but the thing you've got to bear in mind is just like with the United Nations, the EU was almost entirely toothless. How do you think it was going to impose all of this?
I don't think it's even important whether or not they imposed this. As a matter of fact, 33% of the entire spending of the EU go towards, and I quote, economic, social, and something else cohesion. And of those, about 15% are going straight into, how do they call it, diversity management or diverse governance, I think it was.
I think you'll find that's building opera houses in poor areas of town, that sort of thing.
Well,
But what do you
possibly.
think about Turkey joining the EU? I mean, I'm concerned about Turkey because they keep pissing off. No, listen, like, right? They keep blowing Russian planes. They keep attacking Russian ships, and I'm a bit concerned about that because I'm close to the Russians.
That's why joining the EU is a lesser concern. They're in NATO, and these people are
Yeah,
firing.
and I'm already concerned about that. And now
Right.
they want to join the European Union as well.
And this is where it become, so NATO grew up in the Cold War, where it was very much an all or nothing nuclear response. Don't fuck with it. You fuck with one of us, you fuck with all of us. Now it's come down to Turkey, and it's really not the Cold War battle that people imagined. But yeah, I mean, in principle, an attack on one is regarded as an attack on all, and so having Turkey shooting at Russian jets is, I would be more worried about NATO than the EU.
No, I'm not worried about a war. I'm worried that Russia is going to raise the gas prices for Romania again because Turkey is misbehaving. Yeah. I mean, instead of punishing Turkey,
doesn't Turkey smuggle a shitload of its gas over the border from Iraq or something?
No, that's racist.
Yeah. No, I seem to recall that there was some gargantuan gas smuggling route there, but
No, that's racism.
yeah.
Are you aware of the light bulb situations with the EU?
Yeah, they do a lot of silly shit. The one that I would actually have the biggest grievance against them for is putting those bloody screws on all the kids' toys. Right now, you need a screwdriver to get into the battery compartment in the EU, and first of all, kids should at least be able to change a battery.
Wait, you're a scientist. I wish I could curse you to study at the light of these fucking light bulbs, just for like a week or so.
So what do we got on the light bulbs?
Well, you can't purchase any light bulb in the EU. Like, I can't order from Amazon any type of light bulb that's not an ecological light bulb, which consumes less. However, it lights for shit. I found a light bulb in my house in the attic that's from before this crap, and it does natural light, really nice light. You can see it. You have to come to Europe to see the crap that we are forced to use.
I think you'll find them in Europe, and I see it, and I don't have any of those restrictions. I can go and buy an incandescent light bulb in Europe, no problem. I got a whole selection of them: tungsten, incandescents, high.
Wait, I'm actually looking this up. I just don't believe it.
No, I mean, let me tell you. First of all, I do a load of stuff with spectroscopy, and actually having the different lamps is quite useful. I go down to the supermarket and buy them.
Right.
Right? I mean, to an extent, it's really stupid to buy these things because they have a real full black body spectrum, which means they put off a lot of the energy goes into the infrared, which is just heat, which is kind of pointless if you want light. Quite good, quite interesting for infrared cameras, but useless if you just want light. The LEDs are they're almost perfect solar spectrum, and they're dirt cheap to run. I mean, what you were saying about, you want a constant light support source, get the LEDs.
No, I can see that.
Honestly,
I know there are alternatives. However, what I don't understand is like why I, as the customer, and I am dictated that I can't have this. I mean, look, there's now an article that I'm reading.
Yeah. No, I mean, to be honest, a load of the stuff with the EU. I mean, they had something with mercury. Some of the, what do they call that? The fluorescents. They have mercury.
Industries are being shut down because of this. People lose their jobs because of this.
Also, regarding all of this,
Yeah,
formalization, there's a big issue with the EU currently pushing towards centralized European gun laws, which is a massive infringement on national sovereignty, especially in countries that have a very long established huntsman tradition, for instance, Britain, or much more prominent, the Czech Republic.
No, I mean, I would agree that there's been significant, well, I wouldn't even go for significant overreach, but there's been annoying overreach. I mean, what you're talking about is there are people who have lost their jobs in the light bulb manufacturer. Well, okay, if you accept that is true, there has also been a lot of jobs created through things like the common market, right? So overall, does anyone here actually dispute that the actual common market has been a great asset to the United Kingdom?
Absolutely not.
In which case, we'll see. The market disagrees with you.
No,
You've
wait,
seen what the pound's done. Have you seen what the pound's done? Oh,
I
okay.
agree with you.
Oh, okay, fine. Yeah, right. So in which case, yeah, okay. It's not perfect. No one said it was. Right, so yeah, occasionally it's going to screw over some niche industry. You can't really actually, protest against it or tell people, tell the bureaucrats it's stupid. But that doesn't mean that the best, your best course of action in that situation is to actually sort of go tell your MEP or whatever to go tell these people in Europe that what they're doing is bloody stupid. There is actually a democratic route in all of this.
Yeah, but the best they could have done is advise them.
No, I mean, if you actually got to talk to the councillor or whatever, you can directly propose this stuff. And in any event,
to propose it.
In any event, what we're talking about is right down. I mean, shit. You really think that the European councillors sit there and debate light bulbs?
Essentially, yes.
It doesn't really matter to me.
My son has a light bulb
road I
company.
don't want to be on.
So usually what you do is, seeing as none of them would know anything, the first thing about light bulbs, you've got one representative from each nation there. None of them will know anything about light bulbs, so they'll get someone to come in and tell them something about light bulbs, and they'll make their decision accordingly. In fact, I doubt they would even go that far. I would guess this is so menial that it's all done by essentially some civil servant writes up these things as they see fit, which is, I mean, this is the problem that we were talking about the other day, Sargon, is that really you want technically competent people doing this sort of thing, yeah? The problem is that technically competent people tend to be fairly well off and don't have really the same concerns as what you would describe as ordinary people.
Yes.
Right, so you've got a problem here that the people, there is no optimum here. You don't want, idiots making your policy, and you don't want people who are out of touch making your policy, and you don't want to spend too much making your policy. So who's going to make your policy?
The people that I vote, I would like to make.
No. They almost never write the policy.
No, they don't have to be the ones who write it. What's important is who proposes it, because we can get any policy we want proposed as long as we can tell them to do it. If we can't tell them to do it, then we can't get it done. And I agree with you that all of these things are very trivial things. But what about what isn't a trivial thing? We're still in the same system, in the same situation, and that will become
right. So no. I mean, this is sort of you're worrying that what could happen.
Yeah.
When you can quite happily say, well, this could happen with the UK government. Yeah, they can propose laws. Well, what happens when they propose a law to silence your free speech or something?
Then I elect an MEP who's proposing to repeal it. An MP, sorry, not an MEP.
Have you
Well,
seen
okay, yeah, the
President
system
of the
works
United
no matter
States
which
saying-
way you look at it.
No. Look, right. If the European government does that, if the European Commission does that, I can elect an MEP, and he cannot introduce legislation.
Oh, but come on, you're haggling over one type of democracy versus another.
No, the other type isn't a democracy.
It is.
No, it's a
All right.
facade of a democracy, because the people who are proposing the laws that get voted on aren't accountable to the public.
Yeah, who did Romania vote to allow?
No, but
this is
look.
the topic that I want to find out. Like, who exactly did we elect to allow immigrants in? And then to go to other
your
European Union
MEPs
countries and fuck their economy.
Your MEPs voted for it, presumably at some point. I mean, this is the thing.
No.
Actually,
Well, they must have done. No.
MEPs
You can't get anything passed. It's got to be approved of by the elected people.
The Romanian AMPs did not vote for that. Other
Well, that's fine. Not everyone voted to stay, but you know, I mean, this is one of the problems with democracy: is you piss someone off no matter what you do.
It's a much bigger problem in much bigger democracies.
Decentralization is better than centralization because other countries do not know Romania's best interest. Yeah, and I don't like other people deciding for shit that happens in my country.
But they do not share those interests.
I think you'll find that again, this boils down to who is with the refugee problem, for instance. Right? Yeah. I mean, if all of these basically flood over into the border countries and they're basically stuck there, then basically what you've got is creeping instability across Europe.
They would not be allowed to come to Romania, considering that they're traveling through Turkey or through other countries, where they're safe.
Okay, fine. Let's stick with that. Let's say they all come in through Turkey, just for the sake of argument.
Yeah, okay.
Right, everyone says, well, you're screwed, Turkey. Your problem.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. So now you've got the potential of, now you've got all of those refugees going into one country, and if a country like Germany can't handle it, what do you think is going to happen to Turkey?
Turkey is probably going to take, let's say, 10,000 of them, and then they'll say, enough, we can't take any more. We're sorry. We don't have the economy. Fuck off. And the thing is...
I think that's what happened here. They had camps on...
Listen, I don't know if you follow this, but most of them aren't from Syria or from war zones. They're from places like Afghanistan, Somalia, Pakistan.
I think I would call Afghanistan a war zone.
Yes, actually, they do have a right for asylum, but we are comparing apples and oranges here right now, to be honest. On the one hand, you have a, let's call it, organic occurrence, which is Turkey being faced with mass refugees, and on the other hand, you have a created occurrence where Germany is desperately trying to force refugees onto other countries. Those are two absolutely different concepts.
Not to mention the fact that they're paying them to come there. It's one thing if you're a refugee, you come to my country, you can stay while there's a war in yours, and then you fuck off. Well, what Germany is doing is actually asking them to stay and get welfare.
Yeah, no, I mean, I made my opinion on what Germany was doing clear, but it's just bloody... I mean, they can't afford it, is the bottom line. I mean, I don't really care.
And now you have the IMF who tells Europe that they need to make a surge loan. And if the United Europe makes a surge loan from the IMF, I'm going to have to pay for it. And my children are going to have to pay for it.
Yeah, you got to be a bit careful. Yeah, I mean, I think we're all more or less in agreement that leaving the EU is financially stupid.
In the short term.
It is for a while.
No, in the long term.
I don't think it is in the long term, man.
Why are other countries like Norway, for instance, that aren't in the EU doing
Because they have a different economy.
Okay, well, surely...
We can't all make most of our money by digging oil out of the ground.
Well, I guess that's true, but doesn't UK have natural resources they can exploit?
Yeah, but and then this is the thing. Yeah, you can always point to a country which is doing well and it's in one system or the other. I point to Luxembourg and say it's got the highest GDP in Europe. Why don't we do what they do when they're in the EU and they're in Schengen? No, the answer is it's a crappy little nation that gets loads of its money from. Actually, ironically, I think it's got one of the European things there. Or Switzerland. Yeah, again, these are they're local economies. They don't scale up. You can't say what's good for them is good for you, but what you can say is that generally, the less rules and regulations you have, the better. And having every single country with its own rules and regulations is just bloody stupid. When most of those rules and regulations
They don't have to be the same. They don't have to be different. Like if you're trading with the EU, you align to their regulations. You already have the blueprints for them. You just apply them. You have different rules and regulations when you trade with someone else, like India, for instance.
Well, no. No, but that's the nice thing. If India wants to trade, I mean, what you're saying, look at it from India's point of view. Now, India, previously, it had one set of rules if it wanted to trade with the UK or with France or whatever. Now, it's got two sets of rules, and it doesn't know what one of them is going to be.
Well, of course they do. But if Britain offers the product for cheaper and is the same quality, well, just changing the regulations is going to be a minor hassle, considering you're making a profit in the longer term.
No, I think the thing here is that actually, I mean, this is why everyone else in the world didn't want this, because previously you knew what you had to do to trade with England. It was the same as trading with 500 million other people in Europe. Now you don't.
Honestly, I'm okay with sticking it in the eye of multi-billionaires.
Thunderf00t, there are people that have jobs in order to figure out how to trade with countries, and you just need to hire one of them if you're the company, and they will figure it out for you.
Right, costs.
Yeah, but you have those people anyway that are hired.
Yeah, but you need less of them. And can you imagine? I mean, this is what it was like before: is you had half a dozen countries across Europe with half a dozen different sets of rules.
Okay. No,
right?
I
so
see
you economize an order of magnitude by having something like the common market. Now, it's true that they have some bureaucratic creep in there, but that's maybe 10% or 50%. Doesn't really matter. It's not an order of magnitude.
I see your point, but let's say the United States is trading with Europe, and they have a set of rules, but all of a sudden China is offering a better product. Do you think they will say, oh well, shit, we can't trade with them because they have different rules, and we just need to hire more people to figure out how to trade with China? That's just absurd. I'm sorry, but I don't see it that way. It's just going to be treated like another partner that might or might not have a different set of rules. I mean, they can keep the same rules. Maybe
if you're going to keep the same rules, you could have stayed in the common market.
No, because now you can sell stuff like fish, for instance, which you couldn't sell before.
I think we are way too much in thought experiment theory territory right here, because when it really comes push to shove, actually selling products with what they have quite a bit of expertise, a lot of experience. China, Vietnam, and so on and so forth. You actually normally you debate. Fuck my English, Jesus fucking Christ. The point is that you have always, before you even made the deal, you always talk about quality. That's what, for instance, quality inspectors are there for. There are different standards for instance, industry-grade steel, and before you even make the deal, you talk about which standard to apply, and before you even do all of those things, you normally apply a certain degree of, let's talk about what standard we want to apply, what international norm we want to apply here. And the EU made this largely impossible. In the EU, for instance, getting a certain type of, I'm just making a broad example, a certain type of steel of low quality is exceptionally hard in large quantities.
Is there a reason for that?
Well, because it's
because the EU acts like a nanny state and keeps trying to protect the customer because the customer just doesn't know.
I think you'll find that's way off on one side. I think you'll find that they're mostly a bureaucratic organization that suffers from mission creep.
Why would I want
I
a
don't
democratic?
think there's all these people conspiring on how to over-regulate stuff there.
It's just their jobs to overregulate things.
No,
need
no,
to-
no,
Going to over-
Look, I mean, we're talking about the difference between having or employing 10 times as many people to make regulations and guys making 10% more regulations than is probably sensible.
Yeah, but I mean, you have people whose jobs are just to make regulations about things. So,
Well, that's true in any country.
yeah, I'm not
Right,
saying,
and that's sensible for whatever trade, right?
Yeah.
You don't want people dumping loads of crap onto the market if it's indistinguishable
Yeah,
from
I
the stuff
agree.
that's
I'm not saying regulation is a bad thing, but I think that these people forget that the idea of regulation does need to stop at some point. At some point, something has become regulated enough, and these people don't seem
Right.
to know where that point
So,
is. So they're micromanaging every tiny damn little thing. That it really doesn't need to be done.
and the UK's response to, well, I think things are being overmanaged is right. I'm taking my ball and going home.
No,
right? I mean, the sensible response would be
from their attitude towards the public.
now the sensible thing to do. The sensible thing to do would be to actually sort of use the democratic system to actually make your voice heard. You know, yes, you can. There's a commissioner from your country who you can write to.
Yeah.
And he can propose laws, and then the whatever the elected people can mark.
Well, no, sorry, the commissioners can, but we don't elect the commission.
Well, yeah, I know, but that's because there's one from every country. I mean, how you really expect to have God knows how many commissioners would you actually? I'm going to put you in charge.
One that you can elect.
Yeah,
well, God no. So you would actually have one person from each country elected
to the commission. Sure, why not?
Well, what if you actually manage to? So if say for instance, Nick Griffin gets elected, he's now the one.
Sentence.
Sorry.
Do you know how I would change the EU?
Yeah.
It would be very easy to make the EU democratic. It's so close, and that's why people make the mistake that they think it is democratic, but it's not.
It is democratic.
No, it's not. The way to fix it is to have it so that the powers are reversed. The MEPs can propose legislation. The Commission can block legislation. That's how you make it democratic.
Right, and so anyone can propose legislation.
Of course, any MEP. Yeah.
So why? Enlighten me. Why don't you think it's set up like that now?
Because it's a deliberate way of making sure the public can't interrupt the grand European project.
No, you really think that it wasn't set up like that on practical grounds?
No, it's set up like that deliberately.
Yeah, of course it was set up like that. It was set up like that deliberately.
No, deliberately to prevent the public proposing legislation that would interfere with their project.
Oh shit! Right. So how many MEPs are there? About 500 or something?
Yeah, I don't know the number off the top.
Right. So and they're notoriously easy to elect because no one gives a shit what happens in the EU anyway. Yeah, that's how interested people are in participating in the democratic process. But now you've got 500 people, all of which you can propose any which bloody legislation they want, right? And the thing is, seeing as the EU does so little, our government, which takes 99% more money to run, and it does a lot more on a local. Yeah, so we're 99% locally, right? So it doesn't cost much money to run. It doesn't do much. And so, if you've got a very limited thing, and you've got 30 countries, and you want to get all of their opinions, let me finish. The reason that you have someone appointed by your country to be its member on whatever the upper house, as it were, is essentially because if you're putting one person forwards, you essentially want some sort of civil servant-y type person there who is stable and basically represents the people, right? And
if possible.
Sorry?
I want to be able to remove them if necessary.
Okay. So you want to be able to remove the head of the civil service as well?
Well, no, because he is not the one proposing laws, and if he is,
Yeah,
no,
but
listen, don't interrupt, man. Come on, right? Even if he does, I can elect someone who can propose a repeal of it. This is the thing: we have no control over the commission. Every
well,
argument you're
yeah,
making is
but we've already established the Commission didn't do anything.
Show him what the president of the European Union is saying and what he thinks of the people.
Yeah, he's got open contempt for the people underneath him. God, man, these people are awful. This is why I think in many people's minds it doesn't really matter whether we're going to lose money. It doesn't really matter, and none of these things matter because they're not going to be talked down to, and that's all the European
Right,
Union.
right. So because you didn't like the mole on the EU, I mean, it really is. It's like
It's almost the entire
shooting. It's
European
like
social
shooting
class.
yourself in the head to get rid of a mole.
Yeah, it's
That's
about
what-
having self-respect. That's exactly what it is. It's about
Some
having
people would
self-respect.
rather die with dignity, you know.
Yeah, I just hope you don't have
Assuming
any
that
moles
Jeff
to
is
remove,
even on the
Sargon.
table here, because I really don't. Do you think Britain is going to be worse off than Greece in the future?
Well, no, that's because yeah, this is what I was saying earlier. I mean, different countries have different cultures. Greece has a culture of not paying taxes.
Which is true.
Yeah. So I mean, comparing England to Greece is it's like comparing, I don't know, Saudi Arabia to England or something. You know, they make much more
Very
money
different.
per head than us. You know, but is that really a model you want to actually follow?
Well, maybe it is a case of them having very high taxes and bureaucracy.
What, Saudi?
Well, the more
Saudi
bureaucracy
Arabia
you
is
have
a
and the higher the
kingdom. The
taxes,
government
less
is
you
owned by the
concentrate on them.
king.
I'm telling you this because I have the same situation in my country. You know, the more difficult it is to pay your taxes. Like, for instance, Sargon, in order to pay the taxes for his YouTube channel, you know, he does them online. I have to go and sit at a line in real life. I have to hire an accountant to do my taxes for me. You know, because it's a lot of bureaucracy here. So
Well,
of course, in my country,
I
a lot
think
of
you'll
people
find
will
that's
be.
more a consequence of being former, whatever, Soviet
Yeah,
bloc. All of the former Soviet blocs are an
Yeah.
interesting mismatch of communist and Western culture.
Yeah, but if the European Union would want the good of Greece, don't you think they would at least like try to improve their taxation system?
Well, this is the thing, you can't, right? If Rakesh told us anything, it's that you can't just knock on someone's door, stick a little flag of democracy in there, and expect the culture to
Well,
change.
apparently they
Culture will
managed to
change.
impose austerity measures on them, right? So you're telling me they can't help them with the system, but they can impose austerity measures despite them having a referendum that they don't want austerity measures.
The problem is that cultures change very slowly. In fact, it's often said that cultures change at the rate that the old people die off.
Well, with the Muslim immigration, I think cultures are going to change quite fast.
Well,
Well,
no,
it's
but that's because old people. It's not the cultures that are changing; it's the ratio of the people holding those beliefs that's changing. Right? Cultures change very slowly. And
wait. How many years ago was it illegal for gays to marry in the United States? And not even that. Like, if you were a gay, the chance of your father disowning you was quite high.
Yes, very slowly. So it's been a transition over what, 50 years or something, from being illegal to actually. Right, that's one bloody law that's
I started
changed.
watching your channel because of creationism, right? And I really love your videos, by the way.
And,
I want to disagree with you on this.
and let's take a look at the number of people who think that Jesus is coming back this year in America. It's changed from maybe
And how influential are these people today compared to how they used to be?
exactly the same.
Do they still push intelligent design in school?
I've got no idea, but I mean,
Do they still try to eliminate the theory of evolution?
yes.
Well, they try, but they're not successful like they used to be.
Right, so I mean, if you actually take a look at the broad scale numbers, the number of people who accept evolution or reject it, it's about 1/3. It's always been about 1/3. It's maybe gone down 1 or 2% over the last 10 years or something. But that's about the rate that people are dying. Right, that's typically how cultures die. People, when they're young, they're fairly plastic, right? They're the ones who usually drive the change. And particularly young men who tend to be young, aggressive, and idealistic.
Well, that's misogyny.
Yeah, I know, but
Don't worry, it's not
which
really.
is why it's why they die disproportionately more. But once people get to about sort of 45 or something, their opinions don't change much anymore. And so they basically provide this. They're the ones who sort of they're cliches for a reason. The grumpy old man who wants it to be like it was when he was young. People don't like change when they get old, and people want things to stay the same. So yeah, cultures change very slowly, and Greece's problem is that its culture is the one where you don't pay taxes. And you're not going to change that. I mean, to an extent, everyone in the EU knew that when they joined, and they let them join anyway, and they let them join the euro. I mean, it was just bloody stupid. I mean, this is what gets me about, you sort of suggesting that the EU is some great autocratic body that's going to drive it somewhere. The EU couldn't organise a piss up in a brewery, let alone actually become this evil superstate that you're imagining it to be.
It's more about the institutions it facilitates. Like the EU, the central bank and the IMF really did a number on Greece, man.
Well, no, not really. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole thing was just born out of complete incompetence.
And yeah, but the negotiations between the Greek government and the IMF and central bank weren't. This was highly sophisticated, and they ended up winning. And they had a democratic mandate from Greece to go directly against what they were imposing on them, and they still got it. I mean, these guys are competent, man.
Bullshit.
That's the way it worked, man.
Yeah, and they did so well that they actually managed to convince people to stay in the EU.
What do you think?
Sorry.
What do you think about the EU army that the president of the European Union is asking for? Why is it?
I know almost nothing about it, but it's almost it's like to be like the United Nations, some crappy little peacekeeping force that you put in hotspots on the basis that no one will shoot at them because they've got white helmets.
But we're in NATO. Why would we need that? Isn't that money poorly spent? And why did they want to keep it a secret until after the Britain referendum?
It's not been a secret. I mean, it's been an open proposal for 10 years or something.
Yeah. But they actually.
So who convinced you that it was actually a secret?
They actually drafted plans and kept the plans secret to the day after the referendum.
Right. So,
it's one thing calling for it, but if you've got actual plans drawn up by the foreign chief, then come on, that's an entirely different ballgame.
So you're worried that all laws like this are drawn up in secret to deliberately meant to keep you out? Yeah, of course. That's because they're sat on some bloody civil servant's desk.
But the fact that they were doing this was kept secret.
What do you mean? They've been saying that they're going to organise something like this for 10 years.
Yeah, they've been calling for it, but the actual
here's the thing. When you say organize something, you can think of what you thought. People with white helmets that no one shot on. But when you see the actual plans, then you see what they really mean. And that's why they kept it a secret. It's like, well, why not show it to the public? And they specifically say we're keeping it a secret until after the referendum, because it might influence the referendum.
Well, actually, then you think that's... I don't know, you make an argument for that both ways. Right? Should the EU actually be trying to influence the British referendum one way or the other? They've kept out of it, yeah. The EU's not actually made any case to actually...
an argument for the government to lie to you, or to keep secrets from you.
No, I mean, I think what it did was basically impartial. I mean, it basically kept out of the UK referendum.
So you're telling me that if the British people, had they know about the plans, they would have massively voted to remain in the European Union?
Well, what was in the plans?
I think Sargon read them.
Yeah, plans for headquarters and various centralized military installations.
Is that the entire extent of the plan?
No,
right? Is there any military in the world that doesn't? Is there any military in the world that doesn't have a headquarters?
Yeah, but they want to restructure the whole thing and doubtless improve the size of it. So.
What do you mean? Doubtless improve the size of it? You're
exactly what I said. I mean, they're obviously going to improve the capacity of it because Juncker keeps saying things like, "We want a central military to be
No.
credible."
Let's go to what was actually in these plans.
We haven't seen them. They were leaked to a paper.
Okay, so there's plans leaked to a paper that said an army's going to have a headquarters. That's it. That's what you wanted to see.
Restructuring of what's already there, and of course it's going to be expanded.
What do you mean a restructuring of what's already there?
That's what we were told. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the plans. I haven't got the option to. I'd love to see them. Jesus, fuck it.
Bullshit. I mean, this is all menial crap to do with the day-to-day running of the EU. You don't want to see any of it. Which is...
I would like to see the bit about the EU army. Very much so.
So let's... how much do you think this is going to cost?
I don't care, really. The price.
So you're worried about some great.
$1 is too much because we're in NATO already. Why do we need an army for the EU? Name me one single good thing that an army for the EU could be used for.
Policing the borders.
We're
in NATO. All the countries have their own army. Why would I need?
So you expect if there are a load of
police my borders?
If there are a load of refugees coming across in, I don't know, Turkey
we can shoot them just fine. We don't need other people. We have guns, they don't. It's okay. It's taken care of. I think Hungary did that. Okay, they mobilized their own army. They went to the borders. No more refugees. It can be done.
So actually, just out of interest, is everyone who's in the EU in NATO?
I think so.
I think yeah.
There might be a few outliers, but
right, a few outliers. Well, there you go. There's your reason.
What?
For if you wanted a reason for it, there's one.
Let's say the countries that aren't in NATO and they're in the EU. I'm actually curious because you brought up an interesting point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I think there are a few, like some very small ex-Soviet states.
Lithuania, yeah, are they in NATO?
Yeah, so it's somewhere like that, Latvia or something, you know.
NATO.
So why can't we have like a military defense contract with them? You know, you're attacked, we get to join.
There are loads.
There are loads. Why do we need a European army for Lithuania? Or like, you can just give money to Lithuania to have its own defense force, Boston, if that's the thing.
But
I mean, most notably, Turkey is NATO, but it's not EU. That's the big one.
Yeah.
But like, we're talking about countries that are in the EU and are not part of NATO.
In which case, it looks like Finland and hang on, I can't be right. What the fuck?
Well, Finland kind of beat the shit out of the Russians in the past, so I'm not really particular.
Did they?
Well, yeah, the Finland-Russian war.
Yeah, and what happened 4 years later?
Yeah, they lost.
They didn't just lose. They beat the crap out of the pre-World War II Russian army. After World War II, that same Russian army wiped out Finland's entire defenses in a few weeks.
I think the generals in that Stalin killed and replaced, they started learning military by now.
Yeah, but Russia's
thing was that the Russians tried to attempt to mimic German doctrine of the day. Problem was they did not have the suitable mechanization. They did not have the proper vehicles for that. They did not have the proper tanks for that. The result was basically just storming with infantry into muddied, snowy territory, getting fucking bogged down and massacred.
Yeah. I mean, the first time it was the mother. The first time the Russians attacked, it was the mother of all mess-ups. That you had, essentially a superpower invading some crappy little country, and they wiped the floor with them. Even at that, they still lost the first engagement. Because Russia was huge, and so they lost both of the wars, or sued for peace in both of them. Yeah, the Russians won, but it was
Finland to reasonably actually fight off Russia in a prolonged campaign.
No. The idea is that Finland should be in NATO in case Russia invades, and I get that, but I don't think that the European Union having an army would be beneficial, honestly. Just because there's a few countries in the EU that aren't in NATO.
Well, yeah, I mean, but the way I see it is the amount of money, they don't have the money to fund anything even like a real army.
Yeah, that's the point, though, isn't it?
Uh,
Yeah,
They're
they,
going to
they
can't
already
take
tax.
the money.
Do you know the VAT tax is imposed on us on the EU? I
Sorry?
mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good thing.
is it?
Yes.
So I'm paying taxes when I get my wage once, and then when I purchase some shit, I pay taxes again.
Well, the VAT you get across Europe. And the thing about the VAT is you pay it, and then you can buy something anywhere else in Europe because it's once you pay the VAT where you bought it, you can buy anything anywhere in Europe.
Do you know how much the VAT tax is in
It's
Romania?
about 20. It's about 20%. It's exactly the same in the UK.
Right. But you know, America doesn't have this tax.
Well, no, they have sales tax.
And is it 20%?
It varies from state to state. There's a federal sales tax, and actually, and there's always some states don't even have sales tax. So there's a big thing. So it's one of those really annoying things. You go buy something in America, and you don't pay what it says is the price in the shop.
Mhm.
You pay. They add the tax afterwards. So
Yeah, they
you
do the same
basically,
here. But before joining the EU, we did not have this tax. You know, and all of a sudden, like if I want to purchase something, I have to pay 20% extra.
well, welcome to England.
Yeah, but now England can drop the VAT tax.
No, it can't.
Well, probably not.
No.
Yeah,
It's one of those
no,
things. Fundamentally, you've got to get the money for the budget somewhere.
yeah, I
And
know.
how you
Once
do
you
that?
have a tax, it's very hard to get rid of it.
Well, not only that, if you get rid of one tax, you've got to get the money somewhere else anyway.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. But you know, like the fact that 20%, and then I have to pay like 50% more because I'm you know, a lot of welfare programs are running in my state. So that's like 70% of tax. It's fucking huge.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would actually argue that uh, we pay about a third of our tax typically in Europe. Most of Europe pays about a third of its money goes in tax. You could probably scale that back by about 5%. You know, the libertarians are generally right that the less government you have, the better. But that doesn't mean that no government is the best. There is a sort of there's a balance between those factors. And having been in places like America for long periods of time and Europe, you know, a lot of. But I mean, this isn't so much a problem with the EU. This is a problem with just Europe in general. Is they have too much. The government does too much. The government's crap at doing things.
Yeah, but you want the EU, which is like an extra government, giving even more, doing
It's
even more.
no. They do different things, right? What the main thing that the EU does is it maintains the common market, and it does a load of little shit on the side. You know, common agricultural policy, funding science, that sort of thing. Right? It doesn't do what your local government does, which is why you spend 99% of your tax money goes to the local government, not to Europe.
Oh well, some of that goes to Europe as well, but you're right. You know, it's mostly to the local government.
So yeah, I mean, it's yeah, I mean,
do you know, like the local government goes like, oh, we need to align the electricity prices to the EU. Boom, you know, bigger price on the electrical bills. We need to align the gas prices to the EU. Boom. I have borders with Moldavia, and when I go to buy gas there, it's so fucking cheap, it's unbelievable, right? But because I have the privilege of being in the European Union, I have to pay only almost 3 times as much for gas, cigarettes, and all the other shit, so that we can align the prices to EU. Do you know the only thing we don't align to EU is the wage that people make? You know, a doctor here makes around $200 per month.
yeah, I mean, but essentially what you're saying is that it was bad for Romania to join the EU.
Do you know how we joined the EU? We had to change our constitution, and according to the law, the constitution has to have a certain number of citizens going to vote in order to be valid. They kept the constitution for 3 days, the voting for it. They kept it for 3 days up, just so it can get the number of people. And they had like all sorts of enticements, like balloons and candy, and you know, all sorts of crap, in order to get people to vote for the constitution. And not only that, the people voting for presidency, all of them said that they want to get Romania in the EU. That there was absolutely no way to avoid going into the European Union.
I'm not familiar with the local politics. I mean, to me, Europe expanded too quickly, right? And it was one of those things. It was sort of trendy or seen as trendy at a time. For certain, there are advantages with the common market, but obviously that comes at the cost of if your economies don't match up terribly well, it makes for uncomfortable unions. Right, and in that sense, having people like Germany share a common currency with Romania is.
No, we
I mean,
aren't in the euro yet.
okay, that's maybe somewhat sensible. I mean, it's not impossible. I mean, you get poor areas of England sharing a currency with rich areas of England, but so it's all about balances and that sort of thing. But the EU did expand too quickly, and really over too diverse an area.
Honestly, the problem that I see with the EU is that if it tries to become a federal state, I'm not saying it does, but if it would, it's like they're comparing it.
Well, yeah, but there's a fuzzy line between federal state and not federal state. I mean, once you've got.
I know, because this is what I taught. I was taught in law school. Is the teachers here also have the same. Problems, they raise the same issue that it might become a federal state. But the thing with America, it's like most of the states have the same culture, the same goal, the same ideals. Well, if you take a country like Greece and Germany, they're completely different, both culturally, ideologically.
Yeah. No, you preach into the choir, dude. I agree completely that it was not the smartest of moves. But
Turkey. Now they want to get Turkey, and it's again Turkey's goals are completely different to Romania's goals.
Well, not only that. I mean, the idea that you're going to manage all this with 50, the entire EU staff is something like 50,000 people. It's minuscule, right? The idea that you're going to manage an area this size with that few people. I mean, shit. I don't know what I'll bet there are more employees of the City of London Council than there are in the EU. I'm going to check that. You know what I mean? That 50,000 people for something for half a million people, it's bloody crazy.
Yeah, it is. But I just don't think it's only advantages in being in the European Union. I'm looking at my country. I think we would have been better off without the European Union.
I think you make a fairly good argument for that.
Yeah, we would definitely be better off trading with Russia, for instance, or China. And a lot of people are like, oh my God, Russia, the devils, the communism,
Hey, there you go. Pound at lowest level since 1985.
Sorry?
We all knew that would happen, though. I mean, that was...
No, yeah, I mean, it's like, for me, this is just sort of hilarious. It's like you had a mole on your nose and you used to shoot it off, and it's like, well, yeah, we knew our nose would come
but we
off,
knew it was going to grow into cancer.
Sorry?
We knew it was going to grow into cancer.
Bullshit.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, but isn't isn't cancer better to operate when it's in T1 state?
Not grow into a cancer. How can that happen?
What?
How is it not inevitable that you have a group of people who are insanely contemptuous? They've done nothing their entire careers but accumulate power, and they are not accountable to the people they are making laws with. How
come
is that
on.
Not going to end up ending?
It's basically the EU democracy is set up in a somewhat different way to the British democracy
because it's not a real democracy.
Because it's tiny and it does relatively small things, and you need to be able to get 28 nations to actually agree to do anything. Right? You don't want it over gridlocked. If it does absolutely nothing, then there's no point in having it. It's got to be able to do something. And your idea that everyone, your idea,
the illusion of democracy is quite. You would be surprised how many people in Europe don't know that the European Union Parliament cannot make laws.
What laws would you want it to make? I mean,
Well, okay, if you're in the UK Parliament, right, and you're a representative there, you can hire a little bitch to make your laws because you probably don't know the technicalities, as you said. But you can tell that little bitch, like, make a law about this, or this is how I want you to change the words, this is how I want you to do it. When you talk about the European Union, the little bitch there isn't hired by you. is a completely different person that doesn't have to listen to you. He's not working for you. He is working beside you. You know, he's a colleague. You don't have any power over what he writes. You can just say yes or no. So if I would be in the European Union and I would be in the Parliament, and let's say I would want a law where I would allow Britain's fishing industry to flourish, I can't propose that law. It needs to come from one of these people that.
I think you have much more faith in the British fishing industry than I do. I mean,
but
I would.
Principle. It could be for anything. It's the fact that the system is set up this way that is the problem.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. That's exactly.
Look. I mean, it does almost nothing. We've agreed on that. That it does. It regulates the common market. It does a little bit of the common agricultural
institutions
policy.
that aren't necessarily the EU, and again are unaccountable. The power to
They
do
are
bad things to
accountable.
nations.
Right? They have to be appointed. The parliament that you elect in, they have to nominate someone to be the EU representative. Right, so if you want to get the guy into the commission and can propose the laws, you have a route of doing it.
But I don't really like that. I don't like.
Right, so the bottom.
democracy.
Yeah, right.
I'm not happy with that.
Enjoy the fruits of your unhappiness.
He's going to restart the British Empire, man.
Yeah. First stop France.
No. The first is India.
Oh yeah, good point. But so, I mean, do we need India? I mean, we get spices without ruling India.
Yeah, imagine the rebirth of these trading companies. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, which is why we disbanded the Commonwealth, right?
By the way, I'm just curious, Thunderf00t. You're in America now, and you can vote there, right?
No, but.
I'm curious if you would vote for Trump or Bernie.
Bernie?
Bernie. What about between Trump and Hillary?
Well, you talk about the choice of the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, that is a lesser of two evils.
But what about between Trump and Hillary?
I would probably go for Hillary, not because I like her, but because, one, she's competent, and yeah, a president game show host doesn't actually sort of do anything for me. The only redeeming feature is that the American system, like most most governmental systems, is set up that the president doesn't actually have that much power, just like the EU, for instance. So there's a limit to what these people can do anyway in power.
No, you're right. I noticed that a lot of people who...
the idea that, just because the president commands the army, that he can command them to do whatever he wants.
No, of course not.
I just like suggesting that, it's going to be just because the EU could, in principle, sort of say it rules Europe now. It's not going to happen, and you know it.
Not
I mean, you're worried about. You're worried about things that you know will never happen.
No, I'm not actually. I'm worried about things that could well happen given the right catalyst. All it needs is one emergency, one disaster.
Yeah, but that's true of the. I mean, but you could make the same argument that with the Queen in England, that all it takes is one disaster, and the Queen can do whatever the hell she wants.
We know that that's not going to happen because after.
Yeah, right, exactly. But all it takes, Sargon, is the right conditions, the right catalyst.
Yeah, but the
You're talking about two different countries, mate. Different cultures, didn't you say?
Terrible wars and still retained our freedom here. I don't think that's going to happen on the continent. I think that when something terrible happens there, that's it. Anyway, I think it's 7 o'clock in the morning now, so I think I'll end the stream there because we've been going for, well, fucking God knows how long, and the time's probably going to...
So, go and give me a prediction. How much do you think the pound's going to go down?
Oh, I wouldn't even know what...
Go on. Yeah,
a lot.
Let's put a price on your rights to not have the EU tell you how much mercury you put in the light bulbs.
If it goes below the Romania currency, then I'll laugh.
Yeah, well, I mean that's almost worth anything.
What, dude?
Don't worry. If it triggers a recession, Boris Johnson will apologise. That'll make it so much better.
Thunderf00t, are you pulling your money out of the British banks?
Sorry?
Are you pulling your money out of the British banks?
No, but that's because in the long term, it's going to mostly bounce back.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I'm not that worried about it.
But 10% seems about right. I mean, it's one of those things. It's just going to be such a colossal pain in the, and you're not going to win any favors by this. In fact, let's go for the long term. Do you think this is actually going to go through? Do you think this is actually going to lead to a Brexit?
I think there's going to be a lot of hell to pay if it doesn't.
Oh, like
I
there's a
don't
lot
know.
of there was a
I
lot of
don't
help.
know.
Hang on, I got someone at the door. I'll see you around, okay?
Yeah. No problem. Yeah, I'm gonna.
Thanks for being here, man. And by the way, just because I disagree with you, that doesn't mean I still don't think your videos are awesome.
Yeah. No, I very much. Probably will all. Always
Didn't you know that
the bunch of
disagreeing
pseudo
means
stuff.
disliking?
I just wish you would tackle more interesting, not interesting, but like you usually go for the low-hanging fruit.
But anyway, right, okay. But yeah, thanks to everyone for watching. We had about 6,000 people at most, I think, which was more than I was expecting, to be honest. But I guess I was kind of tired when this started, and I can't believe I'm still awake. So, but yeah, this has been fucking a surprise. And like I was saying in the beginning, I would have voted against. I would have bet against leaving if I was a betting man. I would have been like, it's never gonna fucking happen. But okay. Well, we now have democratic legitimacy to leave the EU. See you later.
It's only just beginning.